YouTube.
We are live.
It's hump day, it's Wednesday,
It's the 10th of February.
and we're going to talk about bikes for the next hour and a half,
Yep.
hour, maybe even 45 minutes. We don't know yet. We've got a list of stuff to get through. Let's just see what happens.
Exactly. So we're going to start off how's your week been?
It's been alright.
Good.
Bored. Lockdown, can't go anywhere, can't do anything. Although I did sneak a ride in last week.
Did you?
Just to get sneaky.
I'm going to tell the police.
But I mean, I was getting a bit housebound, and I'm writing an article at the moment for Motorcycle Sport and Leisure, which could be in the magazine at some point. And it's about superbikes. And I think sometimes when you're writing about something, the best way to get inspiration, especially with bikes, is to go out and ride what you're writing about.
As long as you stayed safe, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
So I understand that the best thing when you're writing something is to either do the thing or do the thing and make lots of notes about the thing.
Yes.
So I assume you've gone out there, you've done a big ride, or even just...
It wasn't even a big ride, it was just a half an hour blast, just to kind of reacquaint myself with a superbike, so that it makes it a bit easier to write about a superbike.
So I assume you made lots of mental notes, and that article is going to come along quite well.
Yeah.
And we look forward to seeing it come out. But let's get into what's happened.
Well, you haven't said how you are.
Oh, I don't know.
Are you missing riding?
A little bit, yeah.
Or it's a bit too cold for you?
It is too cold for me, especially with the new gloves, because I prefer not having frostbite on my fingers.
There you go.
So unless somebody wants to give me some winter gloves or some heated gloves, my bum is staying firmly inside this house.
On that chair?
Not necessarily this chair, on the many chairs that we have in this house. So, yeah, little bit too chilly. Wait for the beast of the east to skew on a bit.
The beast of the east.
But let's have a look at what's happened this week. First up, we have...
It's a dashboard.
It's...
If anyone can tell what that bike is before we reveal it, then...
brownie points to you.
Yeah, so we're going to have to kind of fill the delay gap here for a second. Get scribbling away in the chat.
Let us know what you think it is.
What bike is it? If anybody can tell what it is, then well done.
As I said, you'll get awarded some brownie points. So drop it in the chat, and we'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
So how we'll do this then is this bike has been given an update on the electronic side for the dashboard and everything, so it can now accept Android Auto, which is like is it Google's own?
It's like the Android version that lets you put your phone into a safer mode when driving, so it cuts out all the weird notifications, and it puts on like an auto message system where if you get a text or something like that, you can just tell them, stop, and it will give an auto reply saying that you're driving.
It also lets you use voice commands, so you can say, I don't know, I want to go here. Let's go here.
Yeah.
And it's not to the level of voice command to turn your left indicator on or anything like that, but it'll say, I don't know, call the wife and tell her you're going to be late because you're enjoying yourself, or such and such a thing. It will also do sat nav through its own system through your phone, so that it comes through on the display screen. It will also let you sort out music, so you can change podcasts or playlists, or if your favourite YouTubers are streaming, you can listen to them through your headphones.
Again, don't know why we'd be doing that on the road. That goes back to our first or second live stream, where we talked about if text going a bit too far. But it definitely, having that through fare from phone to dashboard just enhances the upgradability and allows us to, especially as an Android user, that's perfect for me.
Yeah, and I guess it's a bit of a bonus, because if your phone's dug away in your pocket somewhere and you just want to pull over, text somebody, then it makes it a bit easier to be able to navigate that side. So that's a good start. nobody's got it right yet. So it is the new Africa Twin, the 1100 Africa Twin. So we kind of spoiled that a bit. But
yeah, it's a bit out of my price range. I'll say that. But I think for the people who can afford that, having that integration for whatever phone you have nowadays, because we are basically split between Android users and iPhone users.
Pretty much.
So having that feasibility now is probably
the odd
something.
person has a BlackBerry or a Nokia or something like that. But the big thing is Android versus.
So having that pulled in is definitely
Apple.
Yeah, having that pulled in is definitely something that might have been asked for, especially within that community. All the Samsung ones run Android, so it's perfect for if you've got a Samsung phone.
And I can't remember if the Africa Twin's touchscreen or not. I can't remember. I don't know. Might be. I'll double check that.
It's definitely.
But it's a big screen.
And all it is just it's a USB upgrade as well, isn't it? It's a firmware at the dealer.
That's it. You go into the dealer, they'll upgrade the software, and there you go. You can swipe Tinder while you're riding.
Don't know what you're doing on the bike, but I'm too busy focusing on the road.
So that's the first piece of news. The second piece of news is we kind of covered a bit last week because we got the teaser photos, but nothing was official. We had no specs other than what people were guesstimating, and everybody was saying, oh, it's going to be 250 horsepower with a supercharger, or 250 horsepower with a turbocharger, or they're going real big bore. But now that it's actually been released, because it came out on Friday, it is in fact none of those. It's pretty much the exact same engine as it was before, except it's now Euro 5 compliant, and it makes less horsepower than the previous one. But because the chassis is lighter, because Suzuki has saved some weight in like the chassis side
And the build.
it should be as quick because the weight is less. So it should be. But yeah, that's the new Hayabusa. Some people are really disappointed and are saying that Suzuki really haven't done themselves justice because it's just the same one with some pretty suspension on the front and a new dashboard, and that's about it. There's nothing.
I think I'm with them. I don't think there's anything that this bike comes out with that's trailblazing or.
There's nothing groundbreaking about it. It's just like they've bumped it up to Euro 5, and there you go. There's a new BUSA, and it's like, well, it's the same as the last one pretty much.
And that BUSA, the BUSAs have sold well traditionally. So do you think anybody who's currently owning a BUSA would just go for this one if it's essentially the same, just for the nice fancy tech upgrades?
But why would you pay so much money for that, to have like a bike with less power?
But again, we get into this debate
because they've announced the price of £16,500.
Right.
So that's quite expensive for what it is, considering you could probably get Z1000, which would probably be a bit cheaper. That's H2SX money. I don't think it's SXSE money. I don't think you'll get the electronic suspension one for brand new, but you'll certainly be able to get a used one for that kind of money.
But does this one does this one have electronic suspension? Right.
This has the fancy big piston fork Showa suspension that the GSXR. Yeah, it's not a GSXR. It's the GSXR, like the premium one.
Yep.
That has the same. It's the same suspension, because you notice that on the front hub it's got the little air canister that's funky coloured, and that's just like a little extra reservoir where magic happens.
Right. Extra work for the person who does your suspension.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, not much difference with the BUSA. Is it really anything new? No, not really. Has Suzuki undersold it? Well, not undersold it. Underwhelmed? Yes. Have they oversold it? Yes. Is it just like a Katana but worse? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I must admit, I wasn't really expecting much. I know people were saying it's going to have a massive engine, or it's going to be turbocharged or supercharged, and I was like, no, it's Suzuki. They're not going to do that, and it's disappointing that they've not done it, because I'd have loved a turbocharged bike, but I mean, they're not going to do that because that bumps the price up. And I know everyone's bumping the price up because obviously, like your Ducatis and everything, you know, you're talking north of 20 grand for that.
Exactly, but that supercharged, turbocharged, whatever charged market is covered by Kawasaki, and they've really got to have something groundbreaking to try and rival that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just a bit underwhelmed by it. Would I have one? If I was wanting a sports bike to tour a long distance on, and then maybe do a track day or go to Santa Pod or something like that, then maybe. But I don't really know.
So you wouldn't go out of your way.
I think it could have been better, put it that way.
It's definitely, I think it could have been better. However, the hype around it, because there hasn't been a new BUSA for so long, is kind of still out there.
One thing it does do, though, is it gives Suzuki a possibility to come out next year in the new Hayabusa Touring Edition, where they've put hard panniers on, or a top box.
Well, this is what we spoke about last week.
Which you'll get anyway, because Givy and people like that, they'll make tank bags and top boxes and everything for it, but they're not, you know, a factory fit item. But also, does that mean that maybe they could do a new B-King, where they take the fairings off, rejig it about a bit, and redo the B-King?
Maybe.
I forgot to say put some hideous exhausts on it, but the exhaust is already a touchy subject.
Yeah, as with all the new Suzuki releases, they are the ones
It's not just Suzuki, though. I think it's just modern cans are just absolutely awful.
It's that Euro 5 compliance. Trying to get that sorted has been a pain in the rear for many manufacturers. I
mean, we ran a big thing on Facebook. What did you think about the Hayabusa? And it seems very Marmite. I mean, there was people saying, "Yep, love it, can't wait to ride it, might put an order in," and then there was people saying it's a waste of an opportunity, they shouldn't have bothered, it's ugly as sin and it only really fits for America. But that being said, if I was crossing America, you know, a coast to coast ride, I'd much rather do it on a BUSA than on a Harley.
Oh yeah,
because you'd get there on the BUSA.
Yeah, but how many like Harley dealers are there versus Suzuki dealers? And let's not get into that. I can see it has a place in the market, but could it be what Suzuki need after these droughtful years?
It hasn't changed anything. They've not come with anything that's new. They've not come out and said, we've got a brand new motorbike and this has never been done before. It's kind of like a rehash of the old one.
Yeah.
If they'd have come out and said, right, so we've gone away with the 4-cylinder engine and we've made a V16 engine that's quad charged and, you know, ready to take you off in seconds, then yeah, everyone would be like, that's mega. But the fact that it's the same engine that makes less power than the last one, it's like, well, you haven't even done anything to make the power up a bit more.
No, they've just taken the weight down to try and keep it the same, which is a bit relux from Suzuki. So I don't think this will end their drought of...
Which is disappointing, because after the success they've had in MotoGP, I mean, we'd expect to see a new Gixxer.
Yeah, definitely.
And from reports, some people saying it's happening, some people saying it's not happening. But then it's like... They want to improve, but they're not going to not improve by not releasing new bikes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the problem is, I don't think, shall we say, the R&D team at Suzuki or whoever does it, they're not really as hot on as some of the others. I don't think
Well, they're all on furlough, because they're not doing anything, are they?
I think the problem is that a lot of brands, a lot of other groups, like, they come out with really good new, they all have their distinct style, they all have their distinct thing, and Suzuki haven't really done anything distinct and impactful and great since the 2017 Gixxer.
I mean, there was the Katana, which was, you know, arguably just a body kit on a GSX-F.
Yeah.
GSX-S, I think it was. But the big board, well, it wasn't even a big board, but they made the V-Strom a bit bigger in, you know, size.
But making it a bit bigger is not a huge thing. Any manufacturer can make something a little bit bigger. There's nothing massive about making it a bit bigger. You could just, it's like just taking a 750 and just changing it for the 1000.
Yeah. So there's been nothing groundbreaking. It's not as if they've come out and said, we've put a MotoGP engine in a BUSA.
No.
Or, you know, because that's kind of like what Ducati are doing. You know, they come out, they've got the new V4 engine, which genuinely was a MotoGP engine in 2015. That was a MotoGP engine. And now they've put it in the V4, they've got it in a naked bike, they've got it in the Multistrada, and now they're talking about putting it in the Diavel, which, if they put that in a Diavel,
that would rock it.
That would be amazing. That would be like a proper Italian VMAX all over again.
That could potentially rival the MV Augusta Dragster.
Oh, no, it'll blow the pants off of a Dragster.
The Brutale and the Dragster.
Yeah, it'll blow the pants off that.
And they were in my mind as being some of the quickest bikes out there. So you put a MotoGP engine into the Brutale, and you've got something there.
It's it'll be interesting.
Next
up. Yeah. So this is a big house with lots of people in it that aren't very good at what they do.
Okay,
it's
so
not really news, really.
What's actually going on is there's just a bill to go on in Parliament. It's a bit of a petition where they're trying. It's just a petition where they're trying to get people who are currently on a CBT. They're trying to get that extended a bit because the whole lockdown situation.
So at the moment, riding schools and places where you can do your CBT are closed because of the old coronavirus. They're closed, so in theory, if your CBT has lapsed, I think that CBT is valid for, is it 1 year or 2 years?
Thought it was maybe 2.
If it's lapsed, and you're using that to your transport, I mean, there's a lot of key workers and people like that need that transport to get to work to do their job. But if their CBT is run out, they can't go anywhere to renew the CBT. So therefore, they might not be able to get to work. Now, chances are people are just going to carry on riding. We can't, like, enforce this or anything.
Yeah, but the issue is, they're trying to get that reviewed so that CBTs have an extension until those training schools are back open to allow people who are, you know, key and essential workers to continue going to work without having any major disruption or worrying that they're going to get fined or impounded.
The MCIA, which is the Motorcycle Industry Association, which is kind of like it's not necessarily the governing body, but it's kind of like a group that looks after bikers and the motorcycle industry. They have the motorcycle industry's best interests in mind all the time. So they're saying that what you need to do is to write a letter to your
MP,
local MP, government official, whoever, to say, look, this is kind of bad, we need to get it sorted, and, you know, bring it up in the House of Parliament or Commons or whichever it is that makes stuff happen.
You write to your MP, they have an example letter that you can send, so you really just need to do a bit of an email if you're that invested in it. But it is good. It's
something that needs sorting, because obviously it is a bit of an oversight, because you could have a doctor that's commuting to work via motorbike on his CBT and he can't get to work then.
Yeah, exactly.
And if he's working a night shift, you know, there might not be buses running and that sort of thing. So it's an awkward one that needs sorting. And it might not be a doctor, it might be someone, a delivery driver for Tesco's who's delivering to the elderly, or, you know, something like that. It might be a carer in a care home. Or,
there is a wider impact that needs to be addressed, and it is just having that safety net feature. And I don't think that the CBT should really expire in a time like this when people who are in need of it, they need it.
Well, in the first lockdown as well, there was the full encouragement for people to get out on two wheels and not be on public transport because of the distancing. You're away from people and
You're wearing a helmet.
Yeah, exactly. So in first lockdown, it was fully encouraged, and then it seems this time that it's bikers or especially learner riders on CBTs have been completely forgotten about. So,
But yeah, let's take a little break from that and go on to our next big thing. So that is, right, bit of MotoGP.
We're on the MotoGP scene now. So Ducati have had 2 of the 3 team launches this week. We've had the Sponsorama Real Avintia Racing. They have made their announcement. This was covered on the website by our new star writer Becca. She's covering all the racing this year. So everything from MotoGP, hopefully BSB and World Superbikes as well, but we don't know about that yet. It's certainly on the cards. But they've announced they're having 2 new riders that are both coming up from Moto2 in Bastianini and Luca Marini. Marini is running, the team's going to run a split livery, much like LCR did do with Crutchlow and Nakagami. We don't know what they're doing this year, whether they're going all as one or individual again.
Yeah.
But basically, Luca Marini's having like a VR46 Sky liveried up bike, as you can see on the left. That's obviously because Sky and
he's part of
he's part of the VR. I mean, I think they're both VR46 riders, but obviously ties to his brother. You know, you kind of keep it there. A lot of people are speculating: is this a way for Rossi to get in with the team there?
Potentially,
maybe not. I mean, he's got his name on a bike, on a couple of bikes now in the grid. But both of those riders, they'll be ones to watch this season.
Definitely, young guns with everything to prove, and they've got a nice bit because they've got a Moto3 class with Tate and Antonelli, and a Moto E team as well.
I think they've got 2 riders in the Moto E as well. If I remember rightly,
that's definitely. I think they were first.
It's a full packed grid, and that was the first release that we had. The second one was the factory Ducati team, who have.
There we go.
Check it out, boys. Pose for the camera.
Definitely. I mean, I cannot fault this team coming into next season. I am as somebody who is a big Dovizioso fan and a big Ducati fan, when everyone else was kind of like a Honda or a Yamaha fan, and I was the one Ducati fan, coming in now with Jack Miller. I'm so happy to see him on the factory.
Well, let's just speak about that ending, because it would be. It seemed that Dovizioso didn't have or hasn't got a ride for this year, but obviously if Marquez isn't fit for this year, and as of this week I still don't think we've seen him on a bike. We've seen him in the photos, in the HRC photos. He's been kind of dressed up in his leathers and sitting on the bike and everything, but he's not actually been riding a bike. But if Marquez isn't fit, you've got to think that Dovizioso would be prime candidate to have Marquez's seat.
Yeah, if you take somebody who was very competitive last year, who in past has been a very good rider apart from a few odd situations here and there, and you put him on possibly one of the best bikes on the grid, if not the best bike on the grid, you're taking somebody with the experience to try and ride, and somebody who could potentially be world champion, put him on the best bike.
And I think I'm right in saying, I can't kind of remember, but I've got a feeling, I'm just googling it now, that Dovizioso has rode for Honda before.
I think it was one of his first rides in MotoGP.
And I made the joke to myself the other day, and I laughed really, really hard, because obviously everybody laughs at their own jokes. But everyone was going on about how French guy Zarco, who's rode every bike on the grid now, apart from an Aprilia and a Suzuki, I think. But Dovizioso's been
He's been around a
He's
bit.
been around because obviously he's rode the Honda where he was on from 2008 until 2011. Then he had the
R1 for a year.
R1 with Monster and in 2012, and then he started at Ducati in 2013. So he's done a fair bit of travelling. You class him as a safe bet, really.
He is. He's very safe. But again, the issue is consistency and gelling with the new bike. But for a professional like him, you can't fault that. You assume that would happen anyway.
So I mean, it was quite a sour split. There was all the stickers that are on the helmets and the back patches. It was very sour, and it would be funny if he came back as cover for Marquez and kind of rubbed salt in the wounds. But Petrucci has also got the boot, so it's kind of like a complete clean slate for Ducati here for for this next season, and they've promoted 2 young riders to the factory squad. One of which who everyone's been calling for a
factory bike for
factory
months
bike
and
for
years,
saying that he deserves it. He's certainly got the speed. He's not scared of taking a risk or two to try and get the best from it.
Last year was probably one of his most competitive seasons to date.
And the only thing that I kind of hope is that now that he's in a factory team, they don't kind of say or kind of throttle it or muzzle him, kind of throttle him back a little bit. I kind of hope they let Jack be Jack still.
Yeah, definitely. Jack has that personality that we all love. And he just has that aura about him. So if Ducati kind of take that away, it's a little bit disappointing. But I think, this year is... If he was so competitive last year, he's definitely going to be way more competitive this year. Ducati need a championship.
Yeah, I think they do. But I think the thing that's kind of helped them a little bit is development's been frozen for this year, so that you can't have any new engine components. You've got to run a homologated engine from last year. Aero is also not developed, so you've got to have the same aero as last year. So the bike will effectively be the same bike as last year.
Yes,
you can change your swing arms and play around with things like that aren't homologated, but it's pretty much going to be the same bike as last year.
Yeah, and what I hope is that with that being as it is, that Jack is able to kind of gel with, shall we say, the 2021 GP machine, easy, ready to go, and can just rock up and kick some butt straight from the first race.
Obviously, teammate in young Pekka Bagnaia, he impressed last year but broke his leg, so missed a couple of races through injured. Despite the fact that he didn't come back fully fit, he was still racing at times with a broken leg and was still impressing. But I think the thing with both Jack Miller and with Pekka Bagnaia is they need to kind of keep consistent results.
I think
even if it's a third or a fourth or a fifth, it's better than falling off, and it's still more for the championship.
I think that can be said with everybody though, because placing third or fourth every race can almost guarantee you the championship. And that's where some other riders have been at fault, where their consistency has been terrible and they've won maybe 1 or 2 races a season.
Well, look at Marquez. I think it was not last season but the season before when he finished, I think the lowest he'd finished was third, I think, for the whole season. And that kind of, to me, it kind of showed a bit of maturity for Marquez to kind of say, it's not it's not all or nothing anymore. If as long as I finish, I score points. Yeah. And I think that's what some of these younger riders need to come in and say, okay, so I can't win, but I can still walk away with 15 points, 12 points, whatever, that's still going to be a bit better on that side.
Again, that's for everybody though, because I might get a bit of hate, but Rossi in the past few years has been a bit inconsistent.
Well, no, he's been consistent, but he's been consistently poor.
But his performance, he's won maybe 1 or 2 races a season, maybe got 1 or 2 podiums, maybe he's not. His attitude going in race to race is just a bit meh at times.
A bit meh.
So it's kind of like it's not too surprising where we see him, 3rd, 4th, 5th row kind of thing.
Again, we've done an article, or Becca's done an article on this on the website, so by all means read that. That's quite in depth, really, for what's coming from the factory Ducati team. I think next up in bike launches, I think it's Yamaha, but I can't remember the date. I saw it the other day, but I can't remember when it is. But I think factory Yamaha are coming up next. But again, no surprises, because the bike will probably be the same as last year, because they can't change the engine or the aero. We know who the riders are already, so there's no real big surprises, to be honest.
I think one thing would just be overall styling, and
it's going to be the paint. It's going to be the paint job, and it's going to be weird not seeing a 46 on the front of a factory Yamaha. That's going to be the weird thing.
Yeah, but we've just got to kind of accept that and move on with the season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it though.
So
next up, World Superbikes. Nobody really cares, so skip on.
No.
Oh, okay. So World Superbikes, the kind of the grid's filling up a bit on World Superbikes. We're getting more and more news on who is going, or is that whom is going where, and what deals are being done.
So I think all but 2 positions have been filled on the grid. Is it Jonathan Ray is still...
Yeah, so we've got Johnny Ray, who, he's not going to go anywhere from Kawasaki probably for a long, long time. He's been partnered up by Alex Lowe, so that's a good pair, and they did all right last year. Ducati, Scott Redding and Michael Rinaldi, so, they're going to do all right. You'd expect Scott Redding to do... he's is it his second year in World Superbike this year. You could argue that he'd give him a year to kind of get going and get sorted, and then, this year he really could challenge Johnny Ray, hopefully. Other big names, Van der Mark's moved to BMW. So it's all mix and match.
Folger and Eugene Laverty.
Yeah.
Leon Haslam is still at Honda, but Alvaro Batista's joined him.
I think Bautista, where was he last? Was he on the Ducati last year? I can't remember when he made that switch. I don't really follow World Superbike, to be honest, because it's for me it's not a big one.
Tito Rabat now there.
Yeah, Tito Rabat's joined, and I know at one point there was another rider.
Got Locatelli's gone down there as well.
Because Tito Rabat got the axe from MotoGP and he's gone to there, and then I can't remember the name, but another one's gone to AMA, which is like the American Superbikes, and it was kind of like, why are you going there?
Well, at this point, a ride's a ride.
Yeah, very much so.
Kind of, it is just a ride's a ride, racing is racing, and they've kind of got to do what they've got to do to earn a buck.
But yeah, World Superbikes, it's never really on my TV because A, it's on Eurosport, and B, it's kind of...
It's the Johnny Ray show.
Well, you said it, not me.
It is, though. I mean...
Not knocking him, because he's won it so many times, and obviously it takes skill. They're all fantastic riders, but yeah, it is a bit boring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let us know. I mean, if we're missing out on something, by all means, tell us that we're missing out. It's great racing, but
it's not.
It's no BSB or MotoGP, is it? Let's be honest.
MotoGP is just the pinnacle. The drama, the crashes, the fighting.
Yeah, but you don't watch MotoGP for the crashes.
No, I don't. But it's the drama that surrounds them.
Alright, okay.
Right, so it's like a soap opera with wheels and engines, and its own soundtrack, in glorious inline fours.
But other than that, that's pretty much the majority of the news that's been covered this week. The other things is like little things. If you've got little kiddies, KTM have made a series of little balance bikes so that you can get your kids on two wheels early.
Sounds perfect
you
for
know,
me.
You know the little like bouncy bikes where they kind of do whatever they do on them and
yeah, don't
along.
force it.
They say it's for ages 3 to 5, or they do a bigger version which is for ages 4 to 8. So if you've got a 4-year-old, you could either have the big one or the little one. So yeah, that was KTM. Kind of missed out on it when we spoke about Ducati, but they've renewed a load of sponsors. So kind of like the is it like the Net app and the Unipol? They've kind of agreed another contract extension for sponsoring the GP team, which is obviously good news, because one thing that we saw in a lot of racing, the pandemic worldwide has obviously shut businesses down, so cash flow for businesses is quite reduced. So a lot of people are struggling for sponsorship in. It's not just motorsport; it's the whole everything that relies on sponsorship. So a lot of people are cutting back on that. So it's nice to see that people are actually still making deals and getting stuff done.
Yeah, it's good to see that there's a bit of cash flow still going into GP, and the sponsors still actually want to be there. It's not a case of that, the sponsors, they have the money and they don't want to do it. They have the money and they want to be in GP and represented. So it's kind of good to see that happen. So it is nice to know that Ducati have been able to renew their sponsors and keep with that nice branding that they've got going on.
But other than that, I think we're
a bit slow on news.
Yeah, a bit slow on news this week. It's been a slow news week. So I think we're going to move on to some questions now.
If you've got a question, you can drop it in the chat.
Yeah, you can drop a question in the chat. You can slide into our DMs on Twitter or Facebook or comment or anything.
Your DM's not mine.
Yeah, just send us a message. We'll answer the questions.
We'll go through a few now.
Yeah.
Have you got any?
Yeah, I've got loads.
Right, let's have a look, see what have people asked.
I've got loads.
Oh dear.
So the first question is, let me just load it up. Can't even remember how to load it up. First question. It's from Dale at Autobright.
Right.
So Dale at Autobright says, what are our top tips for winter riding? So I know what you're going to say is, don't ride in winter.
Okay, so my top tip is don't ride in winter because I don't like it. My next tip is make sure that if you've got boots that are Gore-Tex, like mine supposedly are, make sure that they're not interfered with by your trousers, and make sure the zips are done up properly. Because the last ride that I went on, I had one boot that was bone dry and one boot that was absolutely soaked through, purely because of the drizzle. So make sure that you've got your kit done up properly and you don't make the silly mistakes that I do, where my left foot was just it was a puddle inside the boot. It wasn't good.
I think the big one is obviously keeping yourself warm, because it's cold at the moment. It's certainly frosty in the morning. The wind chill it's horrific wind chill at the moment. So layer up. Don't be scared of putting too many layers on, because you can always kind of unlayer. It's better to kind of open a zip and get a bit of cooling air in than to kind of get out there, get halfway from home and then think, I'm a bit too cold, or we should put an extra jumper on. So I mean, what I normally wear when it comes to winter is I've got like a set of base layers. I just use cheap Nike ones from the discount shop. I think it's like £8 for a shirt. So I'll put like a base layer, top and bottoms on. RST do some wind stopper ones, which have like some fancy next generation material on like the chest and on the front of your legs, which stops wind getting through. They do work. I've got a set of them as well for if I'm doing if it is really cold. And then I kind of put like a t-shirt on, then either me leathers I'll put a hoodie over the top just to try and keep a bit of extra wind off. Or textiles. I mean, textiles are great for keeping the wind off.
And I think that once you've laid up and you've been out, once you're back home, I think it's big. If they've been out gritting, definitely
wash your bike.
Just give your bike a quick rinse.
Because you don't want that salt getting on components, because it can start to it's
rust and oxidise and break down your bike. So give your bike a rinse once you're off, especially if it's been gritting season.
Keep your visor clean. That's a good one, because obviously if they're out gritting the roads, you get a bit of road grime, and that can get on your visor so you can't see. But it can also give you glare from other people's headlights.
So yeah, there's a few tips out there. We do have one for riding at night as well. Maybe we should do a winter one.
We've done one for riding at night. That's on the website. It's simply called Tips for Riding at Night.
Should have done a winter one.
We could do a winter one.
We could do a winter one. What's our next question?
Dale also says, what have we bought our bikes for Valentine's Day?
A tank of petrol. Yeah.
You're too tight for a tank of petrol.
Yeah, so maybe a Valentine's ride. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It's kind of like this year you can't really do much.
No, it's an awkward one, because obviously we're under lockdown, so in theory we shouldn't be riding. And I've not really got anywhere essential to go that would involve being on the bike.
No.
So I
can't think of any upgrades.
For me, it's on pause at the moment. I'm going to wait until we can actually get out, and then I'm going to go for a good ride and just enjoy it.
Like, I'm not going to buy my bike anything for Valentine's Day yet. I'm going to wait till I do the spring service, and
because I know you were talking about a load of upgrades anyway.
Yeah.
You were wanting to do bits and pieces.
I was wanting to do bits and pieces, get some nice hoses, pipes and whatever on there. But again, that's wait until the spring service and wait until it's riding time, or just before riding time, where I can fit everything, fit all new air, oil and everything like that, and then give it a proper clean, and then be perfect ready for the riding season. So it's kind of on pause and it's coming later.
The next question comes from Heighton7 on Instagram. Have we got any big plans for when we're out of lockdown?
Ride a lot, visit places, probably rack up so many more miles on the SV that it becomes a pain, because realistically I haven't been able to get that many miles on the SV, and I hate that fact. I'd love to get so many more, and there's places that I want to go and things that I want to see that I've just not done. So crack on, get some miles on the SV, crack on, get some more photos, get some nice things like that. Just get more hours in the saddle.
I think for me as well, there's loads of new bikes that have come out this year that I've been watching the releases for and really excited for them, like the new RS660. I can't wait to ride that. That looks like it's going to be mega fun. The new BUSA. I'm kind of, as much as I love to hate it, I'm sneakily surprised, because I never rode the old BUSA, and there's loads of people that are constantly saying you just need to have a go, because as soon as you ride one you'll change your mind. So I'm looking forward to giving that a go. What else have we got? There's the new Multistrada V4, which I can't wait to have a go on. Basically there's loads of new bikes that we're just waiting to be allowed to get out and start producing content on it, which is kind of awkward being locked down. But I'm kind of glad that we're locked down now over winter when we've got no light and it's cold, and that it looks like we might be able to get some sort of summer that's semi-normal.
Yeah,
that's the plus side. That's the kind of the I was going to say the golden lining, but the silver lining.
It's the silver lining
that is that we've been locked down when the weather's been awful.
Yeah, apart from a bit of last year, but with everything that's going on, hopefully we can get to a stage of normality this summer. We're not promising anything, but we just want to be out riding bikes and making content.
So next one, our good friend Moto Tingle, Mr. Alex.
Mr. Alex.
He's said he's got a statement and a question. So his first, the statement is the Yamaha Tenere 700, the T7. It's been a big hit for Yamaha, strong sales, happy owners, with a few adding a stronger rear spring. He says he'd love one personally. Yeah, I agree. I've sat on one, I think it's mega, but the only problem is it's not a bike made for short people.
Well, that takes me out straight away.
Yeah, so that's the only downside to that bike, is that it's a bit too tall for me. I've heard people absolutely rave about the T7, and everybody loves it. There's so many aftermarket parts available for it, so if you wanted to go full kind of enduro style, there's engine bars and crash bars and this part, and you can, I think K-Tech are doing different fork internals and shocks and everything for it, which is great to see that it's got that following.
Yeah, don't know much about it, but if you say it's too tall for you, it's too tall for me.
Oh, it's huge. I can't remember what the seat height is, but it's a proper big bike. And then he says his question is, so what's up with Norton? When will we see an Atlas on the roads of the UK?
Right, okay, so Norton last year had a bit of a wobbly. People did some shady things. People then left. Norton then got sold to TVS, which was kind of like the big thing, because TVS isn't really known over here, whereas it's the second largest motorcycle manufacturer in Asia.
I think it's something like third biggest in India and sixth globally, I think it is. And so people probably won't know TVS brand name, but you'll know bikes that TVS make. They famously make the G310 BMW, I think it was.
Yes, they paired with BMW for the first few lines of that, and that's going quite well.
So that's been done. TVS are they've obviously pumped quite a bit of money into Norton, because they're moving to a brand new facility in Solihull, kind of Birmingham kind of way. People, if you live in Solihull, please don't get offended that we're kind of saying Solihull's part of Birmingham or whatever. They're certainly moved away from Castle Donington. They have invested heavily in tooling. They're taking on loads of staff. There's loads of job vacancies going in all different sectors, from engineering to PR to marketing to actual fabrication of it. So it's not just that someone's bought it as a play toy and are kind of making bikes every now and then like it was previously. I know that the previous bikes were done under SVA, which is I think it's single vehicle authority, so that you make that one bike as one bike. So effectively they could get around Euro emissions, whereas they look like they're certainly going to be building bikes as a proper manufacturer now.
Yeah, just having a quick look at the Atlas, if I could choose to have a second bike, that's actually really nice. I think that could be something absolutely proper.
Well, it's a proper bike.
Well, I mean, it looks nice. I think that could sell quite well.
The problem is going to be the price tag.
The price tag,
obviously, a Norton is, it's obviously not going to be cheap. But it's a premium product. You buy one, you're going to expect it's going to be a bit more pricey.
The previous one, which I think was maybe in 2019, I don't know if it's still the same, was £12,000.
So that was of the old kind of...
Yeah, so if it goes up a little bit, yeah. I mean, it's a 650
but
V-twin.
But the thing is, that was probably only one bike that they'd kind of borrowed bits off other bikes, so the cost to that probably wasn't recognised or anything like that. But the new Norton, they're completely adamant that they're separate, they're distancing themselves completely from the old regime, so to speak. It's completely fresh, new everybody. It's going to be good, and I'm really hopeful. It's going to be interesting, and I can't wait to see them. I'm looking forward to what they're going to be doing. I know that they are literally wanting to do it, and TVS is expecting them to do it because they've pumped so much money in.
It's like TVS.
TVS won't let it fail.
No, it's like TVS has taken Norton because the opportunity was there, but it's a well-known name that they can get behind. It's not like they're buying out like Lex Moto or something like that. They're buying out a brand that screams quality, really.
Yeah, screams quality, heritage, massive kind of racing history. So you kind of think, yeah, okay, so they've bought that side. Obviously been making bikes for, I think, over 100 years. I think in various different kind of
ways,
guises and names and all sorts. Have been there or thereabouts. And I must admit, it was a shame to see what happened to Norton, and I feel really sorry for the customers that lost out. Again, TVS is saying they'll make good on all of that, so whether they do that's obviously what they're planning to do. But I think it was that the whole Norton project was screwed by the previous owners. TVS will TVS will rectify it. They've got the budget to do so, and
they've got the experience to do so.
They're going to do it. So, yeah, Alex, we can't wait to see what they come up with.
Hopefully, we'll see something from them this year.
I think that they're aiming to get into their new factory, I think March or April time. So obviously they've got to kind of redesign stuff and rejig stuff and get stuff going and get stuff built and you know, get everything in process. I'm imagining that it's starting again as a blank canvas, so there is no
tape in the way.
Yeah, there's no tape in the way, but there's also nothing restrictive. If they want to do X, then they can do X and go down that way, or if they want to go down that way, they can go down that way. If they come out and say, right, we're going to scrap that one that we did previously, then there wouldn't be an issue with that. So it's going to be an interesting time for them. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Hopefully we'll see one soon, or we'll get info on stuff soon.
Have we got anything else?
I think we've exhausted everything so far. Again, thanks for watching. It is a short one this week, but there's been very little news. We're going to do another one next Wednesday.
Yep.
We'll hopefully have more news from the industry next week. As always, if you've got any questions, let us know in the chat, comment on the videos. You can message us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever. We're on all of them. So send us a message, let's chat, and leave us loads of questions for next week.
If you're not subscribed, do subscribe down below so you can find out when we're streaming next and if we upload anything. And drop any comments or anything, any feedback, anything like that, good or bad, drop it in the comment section below and we will have a look.
So, yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday, 8 o'clock.
Same time, same place.